Yay! That's the live thing. Hello and welcome to another episode of the PHP Roundtable, and we are here live at Midwest PHP with all kinds of crazy awesome people that are PHP nerds and C nerds and JavaScript nerds and Perl nerds.
No
Perl. Java nerds.
You're not
lots
looking,
of nerds.
No one's looking for Java.
So we're attempting to do another live broadcast, which have historically been extremely educational. And I think we're going to follow that trend today. So let's kick it off. Can somebody, I'm not even going to call anybody out, but when you start to talk, just if you haven't talked yet, just say your name and what you're here for. But who here went to a session and they learned something amazing, or maybe just something that's pretty good, and they're going to apply it to their everyday life now? Or is that too big of an ambitious pie to bite into on Pi Day?
Larry's up here.
Oh, and we just pulled the entire sound system on the ground.
I can destroy the podcast equipment. Hi, Larry Garfield here from Drupal 8.
Hi, Larry.
Hello. So I learned that Liz Smith makes my brain hurt. Yeah, so her talk on internals, actual PHP internals code, C code. A, it is the closest I've come to understand what's going on in there, and B, it's still scary. So you're half successful. And my ears, my brains were leaking out my ears. So you were 2/3 successful. Do you have a rebuttal?
Isn't that the goal? Actually, no, the goal is to make people actually help out, because I don't scale and minions are great. Oh, I'm Elizabeth Smith. I do things when I have time and not enough of it. And I like to mentor people and make minions. I'm hiding because, yeah. Say, hi.
There's a joke about her being small in there somewhere.
Shh.
I'm eating chocolate right now.
So we have chocolate and stickers.
And my name's Jeremy. I like chocolate.
So did everybody get a PHP Roundtable sticker, by the way? Because they're very crappily made. So I'm going to be using Mule sticker. Is that what it is?
Sticker Mule.
Sticker Mule.
Yes.
Because
Not to be confused with Mule Soft.
Hey.
No, the two completely,
Welcome.
completely different
We got
Sticker Mule Soft. That's stickers as a service.
Welcome. Come. Please join us. And
Holy
be a
moly.
part of the conversation.
The door's like
Welcome. So we're just talking about the conference and how awesome it's been.
The podcast has now turned into a reverse clown car. This is actually now a Marx Brothers routine.
So for those who just walked in, there's medicine. They brought medicine.
It's actually booze.
Oh, booze. Ah, that's what it is.
It's a euphemism for booze.
Release the Kraken.
No, do not release the Kraken. The Kraken should stay in the bottle.
No, I think we should release the Kraken.
No.
What is that? Release the Kraken. Good stuff.
So for those who just walked in, was there something this awesome? So the first day so far that you learned from one of the sessions that has changed the way that you do the things that you do every day?
I'm Samantha. Hi.
Hi, Samantha.
Hi.
You're on the air.
I would say that I learned that Beth is awesome, but I already knew that, so that was already apparent.
We'll accept that.
Well, and then a lot of you guys actually gave talks here. So from the other perspective, was there insights that you guys got from giving a talk this time? Like some of you guys have given talks like a million times, I know, but every time can be a learning experience, right? Is there any insights from that?
I actually had a really awesome experience, because there were two guys sitting in the internal stock who came up and talked to me afterwards, and they're like, we're old-time C gurus, and we worked on Cray systems once upon a time, and we all know about SysB stuff. And I'm like, oh my goodness, can I recruit you for help on internals?
Nice. More minions.
Did they say yes?
No, but they then died of old age. I didn't say they couldn't do it.
More chocolate.
Any other insights from speakers?
What if I have an insight that was bad?
Yes, good.
So I had
I gave
Name, location.
yeah. So my name is Nate Obley. I'm from the internet and also somewhat Philadelphia.
How
and-
far away is the internet from Philadelphia?
That's a complex question. Should I answer in terms of ether, data centers, or
Let's do data centers.
Philly
consciousness?
cheesesteaks.
Philly
Yeah,
cheesesteak.
actual miles of copper.
Consciousness. Oh, copper.
Yes.
No. Yeah. So my insight was I gave kind of a not great talk today, and it's the second not great talk I've given in probably the space of a month. And what I've realized is that I just can't bring myself to get excited about this shit anymore. Sorry.
What specifically?
Well, you were talking about JavaScript.
No. Just programming in general.
Interesting. So what's new for you?
Yeah.
I think what you're suffering from is the need for a vacation.
No.
Oh, yes.
No, I don't think more code is going to fix this. I mean, it's like, do you ever get the feeling like even though we have all these frameworks and libraries that continue to evolve, it's like we're basically writing the same code over and over again. So am I the only person who feels this way?
No, I will agree. It's
Yes.
And when you come down to it, right, we're flipping bits on a machine, right? You
We're
ever
con-
feel like you're not doing anything?
Mike.
Mike.
Mike is not here.
No, you're programming, and at the end of the day, you're flipping bits on a machine.
I
and
feel
you're
like
not doing
I'm
anything.
doing things, but those things aren't enough. It's kind of like I hesitate to use the word fetishize, but we've fetishized technology to the point where we care more about the constructs than the artifacts, or more about our tools than what we're actually producing.
I can definitely, in all seriousness, at this point, you relate to that. I've been working for the past several years. Several thousand people have been working for the past couple of years to modernize the Drupal code base, and we've been doing some great things with it. And the new feature set is wonderful for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, what are we doing that makes the world better? And it's really easy to lose sight of that. And is the thing you're doing to make the world better worth the amount of effort you're putting into it? Is the return on investment, in a sense, worth it in terms of actually improving the world? Maybe it is, but it's a fair question to ask that periodically and say, is whatever open source coolness I'm doing more beneficial than cool, or is it more just cool than beneficial?
Yeah.
And am I okay with that?
This is Dan with Earthly Interactive, general coder, and I work in CMSs day in and day out. I saw Larry's talk today on Drupal 8, and it was a holy moment for me when some of those things came out. The code refactorization and how easy it is to make the modules now. Just one of those, like, this is going to be really great to program in maybe when does Drupal 8 come out?
When it's done. So I
Sorry, don't mean to put you on the spot here.
it comes out when we fix the next 50 critical bugs.
Okay. But when those are done, it's going to be really great to program in, and I'm really looking forward to it. So, thank you.
I do like hearing that. And to your earlier question, some of the feedback that I got on my session earlier, which was on Drupal 8's development crash course, just whirlwind tour of common tasks for developing in Drupal 8. And I had both a Drupal front-end developer who barely understands the back end at all, and a Symfony developer. Both come up to me afterward and say, "You changed my life. I now understand what's going on. This will be great." And okay, I was a bit surprised that they went that far with it, but that feels good. That makes the effort worth it to an extent. And so, to all the other Drupal people listening to this, that's to you too, because it's not quite 3,000 people who have been working on Drupal 8 at this point. But yeah, what are you doing and for whom? And who is actually going to benefit from it is a question we need to be asking. And that ties into all kinds of questions, both technical and social justice and everything else, depending on which direction you want to go with that.
So you kind of hit on something. What, as a speaker, for those of you who spoke, what is your driving motivation for speaking? Like, what is it that you get out of it?
There are things I know that the world would be a better place if more people knew them. And the more people know the things that I know, the better the world will be, because then they don't need to come to me for them.
Concur.
They'll be more self-reliant on whatever that thing is, whether that's Drupal or new kinds of programming or ways of thinking about things. I present as a form of teaching where I don't have to grade papers.
Amen, brother. Preach on.
Larry stole my answer.
Let's go along with Larry's thing. I'm Beth Tucker Long. I am with Code Climate, and I gave a talk today about what it's like to be. What are you doing?
Jump rope. This is why we can't have nice things.
I know. I gave a talk today on what it's like to be a woman in tech, and it was an interesting adrenaline rush. It's been a long time since I've been that scared to be up on stage in front of people, but I did it because I want to make sure that we get more people involved in the future, and I want to make sure that it's easier for people to be involved in the future, because I think the more people we get involved, the more cool stuff we'll come up with, and that will be better. Then maybe we won't be just doing the same thing over and over again, because somebody will think of something for it finally.
True that.
Yeah.
Nice. Welcome.
Delivery.
Hello,
We have a
Mr.
delivery?
Organizer. What is in the bag?
And a whale. Isn't it a dolphin?
Dolphin.
The one thing I can't share out of that bag. You want to show it?
We're concerned you're not giving Yitz enough muffins.
Yeah. Seriously,
He's-
who gives someone 2 dozen muffins for breakfast?
Yitz is wasting away.
Why do you want him to die?
They're mini muffins.
Wait a minute.
Why do you want to kill Code Rabbi?
Wait, should we talk about the cake that he had last night?
I know. It was like a street full of cake. Oh, you're handing me a microphone. Don't do this. I like attention a lot. So. Which kind? There's you want Kraken?
Did we lose the thread again?
What?
Where's Phil? Quick!
Are
Did
we
we lose
talking
the
about?
thread?
Why are we talking about why we speak?
Yeah.
Why do you speak? I like to speak because I do weird, crazy thing. I do weird, crazy things in my career. I'm Samantha Quinones. I work at AOL. Hi. I work at
Dial-up is still
AOL.
alive.
I don't work on the dial-up RAS. I don't work on the email product.
But it's still
Thank you.
around.
But it's still there.
Around. I am responsible for mailing out the CDs. I honestly don't know, but we do still have the desktop product. I installed it on my laptop just so I could take a screenshot and send it to Chris to make him laugh. So about 80% of my job is trying to make Chris laugh at me for working at AOL.
You do very well at that.
But no, but seriously, like we're doing stuff at a very, very high scale. So I get to work at a scale that I think a lot of engineers don't really get to work at, like in the billions of page requests a day. And I don't think a lot of people really get that chance to work with stuff. So I like to speak so I can talk about kind of the problems that we encounter at that scale. I think it gives people a chance to look at the paths that we kind of go down to get an insight into different ways of thinking about problems that you have to think about when you're dealing with performance at that sort of billions of page requests a day scale. And I really, the reason that I like to speak is really just to give an insight into some of the different ways of thinking. And I hope that people come out of my talks kind of inspired to think differently about the way they approach problems, because there's so many different ways to approach the problems that we have as software engineers when we're designing and developing systems. And it's very easy to get caught into a rut of doing the same thing over and over and over again. So really, I hope that I do it so that I can just show people that there are other paths to go down. And maybe if they go down those paths, they'll find ways to write really cool open source shit that everyone else can use.
What about
that's what I do.
what about getting caught in a rut of like writing symbolic languages in a text editor for 50 years. You know, what about that?
Have you seen the Future of Programming presentation?
Which one?
Um,
Brett Victor? Yes.
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 Yeah. For those listening at home, Google or go to YouTube and look for Brett Victor Future of Programming. It will change your life.
Also, pretty much
Really?
anything, pretty much any video by Alan Kay as well. Anyway,
I don't know. I write boring code for the most part.
we all write boring code.
Right, exactly.
Wait, who doesn't write boring
Exactly.
code?
All code is boring. That makes what makes it good, right?
I don't code.
That's cheating.
It's the title makes it so I don't have to code that much.
Chris, you had a
Get
question
out.
you wanted to ask.
Who wants
So,
I
Nate, what exactly did you say about that you're feeling sick of doing the same thing over and over again?
I just can't get excited about this shit anymore.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that, and I don't think it's a unique problem among computer programmers. I think anyone can have that same feeling about any job. I mean, my wife says the same type of thing about fixing my kids' lunch over and over every single day. So, I mean, it's not that everything we do is going to change the world, but we can do things that affect individuals. And I think that's kind of what my favorite part about speaking is I can give a talk to a room full of 50 people. If one person says, wow, that was really helpful to what I'm doing, or I've learned something from you, like that makes it enough for me.
I think it goes a little deeper than that, and that's good, but it's not good enough for me. You ever seen the movie Dogma?
Yes.
So,
You're not turning into the shit demon, are you?
Okay, seriously. So Salma Hayek plays this character, the Muse, who basically like lives up in heaven, inspires people, and decides she wants to come down to Earth and like run her own show. Right? She wants to do her own gig, and she can't. She loses all of her inspiration as soon as she comes down to Earth. And she had a really interesting line in the movie.
Did
which
you
is something
lose
like,
all of your inspiration when you came down to Earth?
I'm talking about programmer culture here. It's like we have all of our best ideas for other people, and we have none for ourselves.
Can you expand on
Yeah,
that?
can you elaborate?
Well, okay, so another talk by Gary Bernhardt was oh shit, what was it? It was a recent one. Does somebody have the internet?
We turned it off
We're
for
too
the
far
night.
away from Philly.
No,
yes, I do.
no.
I live in the modern age.
I live in the now. No, yeah, exactly. No, so Gary Bernhardt gave this talk, something about living in the future. Basically, he took combined a terminal editor with like diffing with logs to basically give you like a real-time analysis of what your code was doing as you were editing it. So it's like while you're editing, you could see, oh, this line caused an error in the logs recently, and my tools can understand this because they're tying all of my different shit together with my repository and test results and source code editor, and so I can bring these tools together to actually get a better understanding of the code that I'm writing as I'm writing it. And that's just a simple thing. And how come that's not a thing right now? How come that doesn't exist?
You haven't written it yet.
Because you haven't written it yet.
God, I'm so busy though.
The answer to our problems is not Liz doing more.
Isn't that all of us?
That's why I try to train people, because you know what? I'm not clonable and I don't scale, unfortunately.
Maybe you should be.
Wait.
I want to be clonable.
Didn't you clone yourself and your son by giving a talk at Lone Star?
Yes.
That's sort of like being clonable.
But it takes 17 years to grow one of those.
Clone faster.
It's still a clone.
So I guess, are you getting at, what are we doing this for, or why are we still doing it this way? Because those are two very different criticisms. I think both are legit, but they're different.
Why are we still doing it this way primarily? But I think what are we doing it for maybe secondarily? Like, it's interesting that software has permeated basically every aspect of society, and yet it's still kind of this like high art or low art or dark art or something that like a small number of people relative to the overall demand get paid a lot of money for you know, relative to the rest of the world. Yeah. You got a fallback career. It's just that dichotomy is just interesting to me. I think we have a culture that sort of like self-selects for complexity, so we don't have an incentive to do anything about it. Does that make sense?
In my head.
Well, so all right. So you think about it, right? Like you're sitting there typing it away in your text editor, and then you switch over to, you know, the console or browser or whatever to like see the result of whatever you just did. And in that time, in the interim, your brain was simulating what the computer was about to do, right? So the people who are the best programmers are the ones who have twisted their brains to work the most like a computer, and it,
We're born that way.
or yeah, even more unfortunately, we're born that way. That's a very generous way of looking at it. So it's like, because this has become like just our normal mode in which we operate. It's like we just don't think to make it simpler because there's no incentive.
I think it goes deeper than that. And it's interesting
Probably
you mention
does.
it, because this is something I've been thinking about recently as well. And I know some of you in here I was talking to about this recently. Yes, chocolate. You know, in order to do, you know, there have been projects that show, like, you know, writing a game in a language and an environment where you can run through the game forward and backward as you're editing the code, tweak it in place and so forth, and just completely immerse yourself in the runtime.
I think that was like Elm or something.
Yeah, I think it may have been Elm. But in order to do that, you need a completely different set of tools and a completely different mindset than what we have now. And we've already twisted our brains to work this particular way. There are certainly cases where twisting our brains to work this other way would be a better result, but that's a different twist. And once we've twisted our brains once, it's harder to twist to another. And twisting to that other in the first place is harder than twisting to where we are now. I mean, I come at this from the stance of, you know, we were all trained on procedural programming. Even if we're writing OO code, it's still fundamentally a procedural family. But at a certain scale or a certain type of complexity or a certain level of interactivity, a purely functional approach is such a completely different mindset. And I know you were talking about this in your talk, such a completely different mindset, but so superior for certain problem spaces.
Most problem spaces.
Arguably most problem spaces, but getting your brain set up for that in the first place is A, harder, and B, not what any of us are trained in, even those who were actually trained instead of self-taught.
Yeah.
So, you know, could PHP
Class doesn't count as training.
could PHP even evolve to the point that you could do that level of full interactivity?
It's not even about languages at that point.
Yeah.
We basically need new CPU architecture.
Which is why my son wants to get into hardware development.
More power to him. But, you know, so I guess where we're going right now, and I think leaving the rest of the room behind, is, you know, lambda calculus hardware, which would be kind of cool and make my brain leak out my ears even more than Liz did. But, you know, at what point does programming as an industry need that kind of fundamental shift? And when it happens, what happens to those of us who are very well invested in the way our brains have currently been wired?
Well, that depends. Does a job exist to make you money, or does a job exist for you to create value in society? Now we're getting real heady.
That depends on the type of person you are, but I also think there's a shift coming anyway in computing, and that is because a lot of the old guard is dying off, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is something a lot of people don't think about, but think about all the people who really know the low-level assembly stuff, who wrote the original Intel code, who wrote all the SSE stuff. A lot of that information is not being passed on, and these people are aging out of the workforce, and they're dying off As horrible as that is to say,
And
we
they're
are
not
losing.
putting their thoughts down on the wiki.
You bet. And we are losing a huge amount of brain power. And so it's going to come to the point where either we're going to have a couple of heroes who write it down for us,
And
or we're
heroes.
going to have to reinvent everything, right? That's what happens when we lose that mind share. So it may come to pass that we have to reinvent architecture just because nobody knows how the old stuff works anymore.
That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
No, it wouldn't, but it is coming.
If we are able to learn from the way it was done before and do it better the next time, that would be a good thing. That is a very big if, however. Big, nice 48-point font.
Maybe we do need to iterate on low-level architecture, though. Maybe we do need to iterate on low-level architecture, though.
Maybe we do need to iterate. Oh wait, you already said that.
Echo.
Speaking of iterations, this is not a good transition, but who didn't speak?
Iterators.
Am I the only person who didn't speak in this room? I know there's not.
I haven't
Kyle?
spoken yet.
You haven't spoken yet? Oh, yeah, you're speaking
We
tomorrow.
haven't spoken yet.
So they don't count.
So,
We don't count. We're-
so if you're here and you weren't a speaker, why did you come?
Jonathan was
What are you even
contractually
doing
obligated to be here.
Make sure you say your name.
To?
Hold on. I gotta say hi.
What is the value proposition?
So what is the value proposition of me running Midwest PHP? Well,
You should announce
I got
yourself.
all of you to come here. That's
You should say your name.
oh, my name, Jonathan Sundquist. I'm sorry. My apologies. I podcast. What's that? My mom might say otherwise.
It has a Q in it, so
I don't
you'd get a lot of
podcast.
Scrabble
Do I
points.
listen to podcasts? If I remember. Yeah, I don't speak. I've thought about trying to get into speaking. I spoke once.
You're speaking right now. You're speaking right now. You're doing it. You're doing it.
English class did something for me. Yes. So can I get those coasters now?
Does anybody have a bottle opener?
Yes. Wait, a bottle opener or a can? Like a
bottle
An actual
opener.
bottle opener in my case.
Why would you have a can opener?
Sometimes a bitch needs pee. Sometimes, calm down.
Can of pass.
So keep going. You were
Continue.
So
why do you run this conference?
Why do I run this conference? This is truly a strictly community conference. I don't do this for profit. Anything that I make in profit dumps into next year. I do this for Minnesota. I do this for Madison, Milwaukee, for Iowa, for South Dakota, for North Dakota, because there's really not anything in this area. I do this because it was a vision of Mike Wilbanks, who started by Mike Stowe, and I've just carried on that tradition now for the third year. I want to see it grow, but I don't want to see it be a commercial conference. I want to see it stay to its roots. I don't want to get above 250 people. I want to continue bringing in speakers from around the world, but I don't want to see it grow outside of what a true community conference is. I want to bring in those technologies. I want to bring in more Drupal developers. I want to bring in more WordPress developers. I think they need to see what is outside of their silo. I think that PHP developers need to see what's outside of their silo. Now, that to some sounds weird because everybody's a PHP developer, but you also have those that are just do PHP and don't think about, well, maybe I could do this in WordPress or maybe I could do this in Drupal, but I'm a framework developer, so I'm just going to do it that way. But why are you reinventing the wheel? So I do this for those people, and I do this to better the community, not necessarily better myself. As an organizer, and I know Beth can account to this, you don't get to go to the talks. You selected all these great talks that you don't fucking get to see. It sucks. Yes? For the rabbi. Oh, yeah, the rabbi needs his bottle.
They got it
opened.
open.
So,
I opened this bottle.
good job.
I did.
So
Come
I
on,
guess,
Larry, keep up.
have another Larry. I guess so. That's why I run the conference. God, I'd love to go to the talks.
I just not go to the talks. It would be easier.
Oh God, it would be so much
There
cheaper
is
too.
always the hallway track.
There's
and you
a hallway
just pay.
track.
You just pay to go to the hallway track.
Yeah. I love the hallway track, but it costs me so much money still. If I just didn't have to rent the rooms.
Dan with Earthling again. I'm also a just an attendee. I didn't speak here. I came for mainly the talks, because I want to see what else is out there. I'm kind of in one of the silos of, hey, I do CMS work and I'm doing that day in and out. What else is out there? What else can I learn?
You came because you sponsored.
And also, we sponsored.
Nice.
As a secondary effect, my company did sponsor the conference, so we are here doing a recruiting drive.
Excellent.
Yes, we do those things.
I use
Those
this
things
thing.
do
Oh,
refer
Rabbi's
to
bottle.
bottle openers.
I use this thing. What is this thing?
This thing.
Well, they can't see it.
This
Well,
thing.
the people in their car can't see it either. This is an audio
No,
podcast.
Bottle opening bottle.
You have to do a bottle opener job now.
And the bottle opener somehow hit the host in the head from bouncing off the floor. Thank you, Samantha. I really appreciate it. no, but I liked where you were going there. So you came for the talks. You came for the talks.
I came for the talks, but also my company is growing. We're always looking for more developers, so I'm here to talk to the community and say, hey, give us a resume. Let's talk.
And you do CMS stuff. Do you do custom CMS stuff, or is it something else?
We do all sorts of. We do WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, Magento, and then we're a 50-50 company. Half of it's CMSs, and the other half is mobile applications. So we're also dealing with Laravel, Postgres, just ground up applications.
But do you do squirrel mail?
Nobody should ever do squirrel mail.
I'll second that opinion.
Sorry, we were talking about it at the speaker dinner last night, and it just popped into my head again. Chocolate.
We avoid doing email whenever possible. We give that duty to Rackspace because they have a full tech support team that will happily answer your calls 24 hours a day, where I will not.
So is it like a web shop, like web dev shop?
It is the web dev shop.
So
yes.
if you
Will you make me a custom squirrel mail theme?
If you pay me enough, I will. Yes.
I'm curious.
Do we think is Rove going to start doing squirrel mail? Is that,
You'll probably have to talk to Ed about that.
yeah. Ed, take note.
Gary's sleeping, so.
So as a web dev shop, you guys run into a lot of problems with having all these different frameworks that you're building on, like maintaining those over time?
Some see it as a problem, some see it as an opportunity, because a lot of the times continuing the thought, a lot of the frameworks do have to get kept up to date. That goes into the support contract with our clients. So it does keep us in business of supporting the different frameworks that are going on, the Drupals, the Joomlas, the actual frameworks themselves, like Laravel. We haven't had to go through a major upgrade on one of our projects yet, so we're not sure how that's going to go. Hopefully very smoothly.
It is a big upgrade from 5 to 5.
It is going from 4 to 5. The project that we have in Laravel 4 will probably not be upgrading to 5. They're not continuing development. They have what they want, so they're happy. And we're starting out new projects in actual Laravel 5, which I'm very excited to learn about the changes in tomorrow's talk. So
Nice.
By the rabbi.
By the rabbi. I'll see you tomorrow morning. I'm not sure if I can swear, but crap.
So let me ask you then, from so from one consulting shop developer to another then, to go back to the earlier point, why do you do it? Obviously there's money in it. That's why we keep doing it. But why do you work with the clients you do? Why do you do consulting? How is that advancing the world?
I'm not sure my company wants me to answer that question, but off the record and not the company policy, me personally, I take a paycheck. I am there to finance my entertainment, and that is not coding. I love to code. I'm very good at coding, but that is not my passion, and I'm not the person who's going to go out and open 20 open source projects to further the coding standard. I'm there to have 20 here. All right, I'm not going to go open one.
No, so that's a really good point. It's like, it's not your passion. And I feel like a lot of people, like I would say the majority of programmers are actually in that boat where it's like, it is your paycheck, but your real passion is outside of that, right?
Yeah, it's like my passion is I love doing 3D design in Blender.
Cool.
I'd love to start doing animation, but if I start doing animation, I'll get good at it eventually, and maybe I'll start pulling in a paycheck. Maybe I won't. With coding, I'm very good at it. I can pull in a good paycheck, and I can give clients the product they want in sort of a timely fashion. So I'm trading in the skills I'm very good at to finance the projects I'm not necessarily as good at, but really do love to do.
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, I think a lot of people can relate to that for sure.
Whose passion that was coming here and talking to people about coding, whose passion is coming here and talking to people about building cool shit. Because I really feel passionate about talking to people and trying to help them find some inspiration to do a job that is often pretty fucking tedious, right? Like writing code can be really tedious and soul crushing at times.
Yep.
I also
So inspiring people in spite of the tedium.
Exactly.
Okay.
To find reasons to want to put ourselves through the sometimes harsh reality of writing code.
It's pretty masochistic
It can be masochistic at times, right?
most of the time.
I usually
let's
find
be
the
honest.
teaching more rewarding than the coding at this point, which
Right?
is an interesting transition for me.
Yeah.
I will state, so in my position at the company, I am a tech lead. I have 2 developers underneath me, and one of the parts I do really enjoy is bringing them up to speed on projects and saying, this is how you need to build the project, and here's why you need to build it this way, because you see the light in their eyes and they're like, oh, I never thought of it that way, or just the moment of recognition of, oh, that's an ingenious way to do that. I never would have thought of that. Now that you put that seed there, I can continue on with that train of thought. So that's part of my job. I really do enjoy. That's awesome.
Any more thoughts on that real quick before I dramatically change the subject? Okay, I'm actually gonna.
Jeremy, I just counted. I'm at 35 projects on GitHub.
Hey, look, it beats me.
I didn't say they were good projects. I just said I have to read.
No one said any of them were good.
I want to play this word game real quick. I want to throw out a word, and you guys just say the first thing that comes to your mind. All right, ready? PHP internals.
Drama.
The place I go to feel better about contention in the Drupal world.
Sauteed green cabbage.
I'm not sure I'm allowed to say that word on the internet.
So as predicted, I just saying the word PHP internals brings up like really kind of negative feelings almost, and I feel like that's the media hype that it gets too. I mean, yeah, there is a lot of
Or is
negativity.
it just uncomfortable soft chuckles?
It could be that.
Then
But
crying. Lots and lots of crying.
I want to be an advocate for saying that, like, I am a non-PHP internals person, but I've been experimenting in userland, from userland to PHP internals, and I have an RFC that's out there right now, and I've been working on it with a guy in the UK, Leah. I don't know how to say his name, but anyway, it's been awesome. Like, PHP internals people have been super nice, and they've helped me like crazy. There's a couple of them in this room who have helped me a lot.
You know what? PHP internals may be kind of loud and obnoxious, but if you prove you're willing to put in the work to make things better, we will bend over backwards to keep you in the game.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the little drama that happens, I mean, it can blow up to be a big drama if you want to be a part of it, but it's really isolated to like very specific things. Like, there was absolutely zero drama with the entire discussion with my RFC, like zero drama whatsoever. Like, some people were like saying, hey, it might be better to do it this way, it might be better to do that way, but it was all just like strict code review, nothing personal. It was great. So if you're scared about being contributing to PHP internals, don't let the drama from one or two little things hold you back, because the majority of the stuff that's actually going on in internals is actually super amazing and super awesome.
Sammy, why don't you tell us about your RFC?
Well, let me tell you about my RFC. That's actually going. This is the first time ever on a podcast. So, my RFC was born out of my contributions to the Facebook SDK, PHP SDK, and we were having this trouble of generating cryptographically secure pseudo-random bytes. So if you don't know, if you're using mtrand or rand or anything to generate random data, and you need to do that for a cross-site request forgery token or something like that, that stuff it's predictable. So like, you can forge those things very easily. and those need to be cryptographically secure, not cryptographically secure. Although that would be something else.
They need to be cryptographically secure so that they're not cracked.
Exactly what we have now.
Exactly.
So
What we have now is
you're doing this all off MD5, then I take it.
Yes, there's like you'd like randomize something and then unique
Like
ID
MD5
and then
points
MD5 it and
insecure.
stuff. So that's really insecure. So the way that you would actually generate cryptographically secure random pseudobytes in PHP right now is extremely convoluted, and you have to write like hundreds of lines of userland code potentially to get it right. So this is a function that you can add. It's random bytes and random int, and it adds cryptographically secure pseudo-random data to PHP. And it's been in discussion for 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks, it can go into voting phase. And since it's been exactly 2 weeks, here's the email I'm about to send to the internals list. I'm going to read it out loud. And Elizabeth, if there's anything you think I should change, you definitely say now or forever hold your peace. Actually, I officially put it in voting phase, and I think Anthony Ferrara already beat you to the punch. I haven't announced it yet, but he already voted on it, and he voted yes.
Wait,
so
can
far,
I
so
be the
good.
first person to vote now?
Right, it might be. So here, okay, the subject line is I'm adding the tags RFC and vote. So far, so good, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the subject line is reliable userland C-Spring or cryptographically secure pseudo-random number generator. And here's what it says pretty quick. It says a 2-week discussion period has been held for the reliable userland cryptographically secure random pseudo number generator. Oh my God, RFC.
Who named this thing?
And to add random bytes and random int to PHP core. The RFC has now moved into voting, and here's the link. And there was some discussion on prefixing the function names with crypto underscore, but there are a few reasons why we decided against this. One, there is a crypto pickle extension, so the pseudo random names or the pseudo namespace might cause confusion. And two, we wanted to work on fully featured crypto framework for 7.1, and crypto is a good prefix for that. So again, we didn't want to mix things up. Thanks.
That's fine. What does the actual subject look like? Because it should be really boring. Like vote for CSRNPG open. That's it.
Okay, so it has the
because
vote
you
tag.
know what? People on the internet don't read.
So it should say vote for
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
reliable userland C-Spring. Yeah.
Vote open.
Vote open for.
Yep.
Vote open for reliable userland C-Spring. Okay, here it is. This is happening live on a podcast for the first time in history, I think, for PHP. I didn't look this up. I'm making this up as I go, but for the PHP internals contributions. Oh, shoot. Okay, and as I do this, Lee in UK just said, Samuel, it's the 15th. He's getting on me because this is the last, like, if we don't submit this into voting phase by the 15th, then we are, then we don't get it into 7.
Dum dum dum.
Sammy will be shot live on Hangout.
So I'm actually sending it right now. I think it's still okay.
That's how internals work.
Well, it is still the 15th.
I did
Almost
technically
15th.
put it into voting phase before this already, so it should be okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's hope that this actually works.
He really wants.
All right, here we go.
Very, very thankful.
This is it. The big send. I'm pushing the button.
How many RFCs
Drum
have you
roll,
submitted,
please.
Nate?
5, 4, 3, 2,
Bart.
1. Somebody give me a random number.
5.
4, 3, 2, 1. I bet it was cryptographically secure.
I'm going to vote no because it breaks backward compatibility.
Oh.
I didn't read it. I don't know.
It does actually break it if you already have a function named random underscore int
See?
and random underscore bytes.
How many people is that going to affect?
I looked up on GitHub.
7.
There are a couple of packages that use methods called that, but there aren't too many that actually have function names like that. And their random generation is like a wrapper of MD5 and MTRand. So
they deserve to be.
it deserves to be broken.
It's just array rand with range inside it.
So big thanks to everyone who helped. Anthony Ferrara, definitely. Elizabeth Smith, she helped me get into internals initially with writing my very first internals test like a year ago. So she's here. And Lee Probably Lee. Yeah, Lee from the UK. I did the C code, quote unquote, and it was crap. And then he was like, let me make that work. So if you're a userland programmer like me and you don't do seed, that's not a freaking excuse to not contribute to PHP source. Ladies and gentlemen, a userland guy. That's who I am.
So, did you get the email sent?
I did send it. So
Okay.
Go out there and vote, ladies and gentlemen. If you, oh wait, you know what? I don't have voting karma. I can't vote for my own RFC. So
Vote for you.
thank you.
So to back up a bit, now that that's been submitted, we were talking about whether or not internals is scary.
Yes.
Something that I've seen actually in a couple of different places, internals and elsewhere in open source, and even outside of open source, just in volunteer online communities, is an interesting pattern. I only just realized this pattern as we were talking. Well, rank noobs who don't actually know how things work yet.
Like rank and file noobs?
Sure. They get hit on. No, that's the wrong word.
I don't think you're on the same mailing list the rest of us are on.
Whatever. They get dismissed very quickly and easily because they don't know how things work. They don't seem like they're willing to put in the effort and so on. Then there's a middle group who've demonstrated that they are willing to be involved and play by the rules and go with the grain and contribute and so forth. And there's a lot of effort to keep and mentor and train those people. And then at some point you get past a certain threshold where you are willing to rock the boat and you're at a level where it's appropriate to rock the boat. And then the people in that group are really mean to each other, whether they intend to be or not. That's where the fighting happens. Even like I'll admit to even being part of this in Drupal at times, where just you get up to that level and I don't know if it's the stakes are higher or the egos are larger or
they're angry at themselves and they're taking it out on
or they're angry at themselves and they're taking it out on you or whatever it is.
Liz has motioned that the egos are indeed larger.
But that's the level where you get people swearing at each other and telling each other to piss off and various other unpleasantness, and that's what people see, and so it gets a reputation of people fight and backbite and so forth because they do at that level. I'm not quite sure what to do about that dynamic.
Clash of the Titans.
It kind of, and I'm not quite sure.
Thunderdome.
I'm not quite sure.
Monday.
Yeah, as I said, I've only just realized this pattern now in 3 different places that I've seen it, internals being one of them. But what is that a natural pattern? Is there something we can do structurally to reduce that, to avoid that? Is it inevitable? Is that part of it being an online community? Do real meat space communities have the same kind of dynamic? I don't know. And does anyone else have that kind of experience? And does anyone else see that pattern? Is it microphone?
Yeah, microphone.
Name.
Whatever. So my name's Kyle. I do stuff.
Hi, Kyle.
Hi,
Kyle.
Yeah, but to a certain extent, it's if they didn't argue, wouldn't you worry more? Because the fact of the matter is, you have a lot of people who are arguing for their vision per se, and they've had a lot of thought that goes into this, and it matters to them. So to a certain extent, whenever you get all those variables together, you're going to get like a cat fight to a certain extent. If they weren't as emotional about it, I mean, that's like the equivalent of like a business that just does e-commerce and you're like, yeah, let's just do this site, half-ass, and everybody's like, okay, that's fine, and nobody cares. So to a certain extent, the people who give a shit are going to be emotional about it. You're not going to get around it.
Even in internals, it all comes back to the same thing. What are we fighting over?
Didn't
Fighting
Henry
over that
Kissinger
freaking pink bike shed again, right?
Didn't Henry Kissinger have a quote about academic politics? They're so vicious because the stakes are so low.
Yes, exactly. We're back to the pink bike shed. We're arguing about things that aren't important in the stake of things. We had all this new stuff going to PHP 7 that was important. We had this stuff about, the thread local storage for the threading model in PHP, and there was like barely a whimper. And we had the stuff with PHP NG, and everybody was like, yes, we need to get it in. And we had the 64-bit stuff, and there was a little bit of argument because the PHP NG stuff was going. But in the end, we had none of the drama we're having with static type hints, which in the large and the small scale of things is not nearly important. It's pink on the bike shed. What is really important here about the language, and what are we wasting our time on? And part of that is just human nature. We like to fight about the bike shed because everybody has an opinion, whereas nobody knows how the nuclear reactor is run.
It's a hut, not a shed.
Who puts bikes in a hut?
The rabbi has informed us that it is a hut, not a shed.
The bike hut?
Yeah.
And it should be blue.
Yes.
I really think it should be purple.
You're wrong. You're wrong. That will never work.
The thing is, I don't mind if people get emotional, but they get abusive. That's
I think-
that's where it crosses the line for me, and where that's where I sort of sign off and don't listen anymore, because
People can make an argument without being argumentative, and those are it's a very important distinction.
Yeah.
Making an argument for something is simply making the case for it.
right.
That's different than, being cruel, being mean, telling someone, they're a bad person.
Or even arguing for the sake of arguing.
Well, and there's a difference between attacking ideas and then attacking the people presenting the ideas as well.
Which is often hard to differentiate when you're on the receiving end.
Yes. Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Well, the other thing is, remember that a lot of the people who are involved in open source and do a lot of it and do big projects like this do it because it is their passion, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of times with your passion, you get addicted to it. I also do a lot of writing. And one thing about writers is they love every word they write. I'm guilty of this as well. And they take any editing of their work as an attack on their person. And I think a lot of times as developers, we get the same way. We're so attached to our code, and you're telling me that this is not right. Therefore, I am a terrible person because I wrote something not right. When at the end of the day, it's just words on the screen. It's not that important. What's important is what it does and the end game, right?
So if what it does is bad, you're saying I can write code that's both morally reprehensible and technically incorrect?
You do
Yes.
PHP.
Bonus points if you link to Perl.
Because Perl.
Careful. The Ruby people say the same thing about PHP.
Well, who here's written COBOL in the last 6 months?
Oh, wait.
Erlang?
I can say that.
I wish I was writing Erlang.
Who in here has ever written RPG?
I don't even know what
I
that
played an
Oh
RPG.
my word.
Just leave.
Okay, so has anybody done R?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know people who have.
Yeah.
Scheme.
Scheme. Oh my. Okay, and now we're back to Lisp, which created the universe.
Wait,
Did it just recurse on itself?
Golang is pretty cool for anyone who hasn't tried it. I know this is a PHP thing, but Golang is awesome.
Well, actually, I recommend a lot of people. I'll talk about this kind of tomorrow, but I recommend people go down the stack. Golang is a great place for PHP developers to go dip their toes into something else that's not like totally different and won't fry their brains too much.
It's somewhere in between PHP and C.
Yes, it is. Just hold the mic, Larry.
But keep doing this.
So, Jeremy, speaking of super closures, tell us
I heard we should use super closures for everything.
yes. So,
Sammy, the master of the
Special
segue.
introduction. PHP supports it natively now, right?
yeah. So you figured out a way to take a closure and serialize it, and then do some things you're not supposed to do in PHP on it, and then make it work.
Yeah, that about sums it up.
Oh, you're abusing the implementation detail.
Something.
Actually, I do want to have a point on this and ask you specifically about this, but super closure, can you give a brief synopsis about it, and then also about what eval is used, why you're using eval in your thing?
What style of fighting? If it's a dance fight, Sammy will win.
No, I think Elizabeth has got that one. She's
Well,
got way
what
better
kind of
balance
dance?
than I do.
It has to be a dance off. What you choose to stop.
Modern interpretive.
Who has the fight is Star Trek ready?
Your geek is showing.
That's what did it for you.
We're on a podcast for a programming language. I don't think we have to worry about our geek shit.
I think we're pretty much right on target.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So superclosure. What is it, and why do you use eval?
So let me clarify this I don't even use my own package that I've written, but I will tell you about it if you're
There's a
asking.
joke there.
So superclosure is a package that I started as for academic reasons a few years back. When I started using PHP 5.3, I was messing around with the new objects that came in PHP 5.3 like closure, and I tried to serialize it. And the exception message that you get back is, you cannot serialize a closure. Challenge accepted. So the combination of
This sounds like a hold my beer moment.
Combination of reflection and doing lexing on tokenizing of the actual PHP code and analyzing it. I made it so that I could actually find the code that comprises the closure, find the context that's passed into the closure, and create a serializable form. But to unserialize this, of course, you have to eval that code. So that is why I have never used my own package, and I never encourage anyone to use it. But about a year and a half ago, a video showed up about Laravel and Qs and Iron MQ, and they said, hey, look, you can serialize this closure and put it on your queue and unserialize it and use it later. I'm like, wait. And as it turned out, they were using my code. And so I've had to kind of support the software.
Well, that sounds technically incorrect and morally reprehensible. Congratulations, you nailed it.
So Jeremy, serious question. How many gallons of goat's blood did it take you to figure this out?
Metric or?
I said gallons.
Metric gallons?
Metric gallons.
Now what you need to do is be even more evil.
More eval?
We need an extension for that. Right, because we can override some of that serializing and parsing directly in the engine. Grab that AST information.
So yeah.
So you're encouraging this, Liz. That's what I'm.
In PHP 7, there is a legit AST, and I believe Nikita, how do you say his name? Popov. He has written an extension to expose the AST, which means I could actually use a legit AST. I am using his PHP parser package though already. Anyway, it's an interesting project, and I recently added something with the help of Anthony Ferrara's help to be able to sign the serialized closure, so it's a bit more safe to unserialize the closure.
Although I hear that super closure does not work on PHP 6.6.6 because they removed eval from that one.
I
get it.
No, yeah, we got it. It's just not funny.
Chocolate.
6.6. No, but I wanted
to before I hand the floor over, I am giving a presentation on Nomad PHP in May about this process of this project. The talk is called "How to Serialize a Closure and Get 1 Million Downloads."
Nice. That's awesome.
And it literally has been installed 2.8 million times on packages.
Wow.
I would never think that would ever happen when I first wrote a blog post about this, but
nice. 100 million downloads. So Larry, you had a thought.
So just slight tangent. I'm actually genuinely curious to ask our internals expert here. What is it about closures that makes them unserializable in normal PHP when you're not doing evil things?
Eval things.
Okay, so what makes them inherently unserializable?
Chocolate.
Is because we have no way of telling what may actually be inside, right? Let's say we have a resource that you've stuck inside that closure that you've attached to it. You can't frickin' serialize a resource.
Yeah, no resources, no references.
Exactly. So because PHP didn't want to do all that heavy lifting to make the serialization work, that's why. The other reason is when closures were done, the fact that they're an object has always been, as we've jokingly called, an implementation detail.
No. In 5.3, it was an implementation detail. But you guys added the bind method and 5.4, thus making it an actual legit object with an interface.
Well, yes, but the idea has always been, if in the future we decide to be freaking evil because we're PHP, we can drop out the fact that we're using objects behind the scene and put something else in its place. Of course, we never will because we're PHP, and heaven forbid we break BC ever. But that was the idea.
So we're scared of resources.
Who isn't scared of resources?
I'm completely
Embrace the stream.
Well, sort of.
Now we are back to Go PHP 7 and extensions.
Yay, Go PHP 7. So,
Give a sales pitch.
yes,
Do I have to sales pitch it?
absolutely. Tangent sales pitch for
Okay,
PHP
so
7.
PHP 7 is coming, and it's coming fast. Lots of things have changed, but not really so much in userland.
Preach.
Okay, so Rasmus, who is awesome, put together this really nice VM. And the idea behind it was so that people could download it, put their PHP code on it, and run it and see what was broken. He wanted the big frameworks and the big applications to do this so we get the bugs now. I know like Matthew Wero-Finney and Zen Framework 2 has done this, and they've already filed a bunch of bugs that are in PHP 7 that need to be fixed. And everybody kind of needs to do this. But when he did it, I also got the idea of, well, a lot of the internals in PHP 7 have changed. So like extensions are breaking, and I know this because I tried to compile my own and they're broken. But the problem is I'm still figuring out how to fix everything because it's not documented. We need to pull it out of people's brains. And the other problem is that there aren't a lot of people who really know how to do PHP extensions. And then I got to thinking, well, PHP 7 is going to come out. And we have all these people using these third-party extensions and pickle extensions, and they're all going to be broken. So what's the use if our user code runs if all the extensions that you want to use with it don't run? We're going to be up a shit creek without a paddle. This is a problem. So I kind of put together a project, and the idea is twofold. First of all, PHP internals are very poorly documented. All the knowledge is tribal knowledge. You have to know who to ask and how to ask. And it's not...
Sounds like any large corporation.
Yes. Well, and the other problem is, who is the best person to write beginner documentation? Let me tell you, it's not the developer that's been doing it for 20 years. They are good for answering the beginner's questions, but they are really the last person you want to write the documentation. So what I've been trying to do is get the internals developers to come sit in this IRC channel and get people who are interested in helping and writing the documentation and doing the beginner work in this IRC channel. Thank you. And we come in and they ask questions and they get their answers and they write it down in wiki pages. And we already have a page up on the website on how to do testing for PHP extensions that has never been had before. You know, this has never been written down. It's amazing. And the idea is to get this in a nice form that everybody can use. And then we put it into the PHP documentation because it needs to be there. But because we want to super crowdsource it, because nobody has more than 15 minutes a day to really do this kind of work. But if everybody has 15 minutes a day, we can get it done before PHP 7 is out. And then it's twofold. I want to, besides get documentation done for how to do the ports and what extensions need to be fixed and what extensions exist. Because you know how many extensions there are for PHP?
Didn't you say like 50 something?
No. There are, I don't even remember at last count. Okay. If you go to pickle.php.net, there are over 200. That's just ones registered on pickle.php.net. There are more on GitHub that aren't registered anywhere. And there's no place like packages where you can find all this stuff, but there will be. And then there's
Picklist?
Pickle. So that's the other project is getting they've been working on it for a while, but Pierre and some of the other people have been working on something called Pickle, which is supposed to be a replacement for Peckle or Pickle, depending on how you pronounce it, which is built on the pair installer. So we can have an installer for PHP extensions that is as good as Composer is, right? Because we need that.
Composer for PHP extensions, basically.
Yes.
That sounds fantastic.
So that's the goal. Yes, but Pickle will do the hard part of either finding the binary that's already pre-built for you or helping you build it on your system if you have the right tools in place, which is the other half of the problem, right? So if we have cool tools to be able to install stuff, documentation written for people to be able to help with tests and things, and we have a list of all these extensions and their status, who their maintainers are, maybe we can have some cool extensions that aren't broken all the time. Wouldn't that be great? I would really love that. So that was the thought behind the project. And I've really had a lot of people, stand up and do stuff. I've had people who are doing sysadmin stuff who have stood up and said, you know, we're going to help build vagrants. And I asked Rasmus, can you put PHP 5 on that vagrant box? And he said yes. And I said, can you put debug builds on? And he said yes. And I said, can you put ZTS builds as well? And he said yes. Oh, we win. So you have this vagrant, you can go in, you can tell it whatever version you're working on your extension, set it right to that and get compiling and get running tests. That's a great way for people to get started. Download the vagrant and everything's set up for you. And this is why I love this new whole sysadmin world with containers and vagrants and stuff, because that is the worst part of getting anybody started, right?
Yeah.
That first step. So it's me yelling in channel saying, can you guys get stuff done? Because I have 4 kids and a life and I have 20 minutes a day. So I will do what I can, but I have these extensions that really need to be ported.
I was going to add, along with the PHP 7 VM that Rasmus put out, Travis also started allowing you to do Travis CI builds with PHP 7 too. So if you have an open source project that you're on the run test with, it's really, really easy to do that.
Please do.
We're starting to build PHP 7 and test. We have a huge PHP application.
Yes.
We're starting to build PHP 7 and test it. Test our application in PHP 7. So feel free to poke me if you have questions about it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Because we want PHP 7 adoption to not have to do quite what we did with PHP 5, right?
Amen. Yeah, it took a concerted effort by a number of projects to blackmail and threaten web hosts in order to get PHP 5 to actually happen in the wild.
I can cut people too if you need me to.
And I would rather not have to go through that again. We're probably going to have to, but if we can ease that and make it, so we need to do less bullying to make it happen, I'm all for that. So actually, I've got a question for you then, Liz. From an API perspective at this point, how stable is PHP 7 for extensions?
Well, once Sammy's RFC passes, there'll be a new function.
Well, yes, but that doesn't really affect internals too much. As far as I know, everything that has passed that affects internals has been merged and tested at this point. There are still a few fiddlings that I've seen this past week with Dimitri doing some hash table fixes just to make them a little bit faster. So some of that might change, but not unless you're doing really low-level hash table manipulation. Because PHP internals uses macros to an incredible degree.
I learned that today in your talk.
They've tried to do a lot of BC by repurposing these macros, just changing them. But there's still quite a bit that will need to be done. Hopefully, cross your fingers, nothing else big will change in the engine so we can really get going with that.
So if someone starts tweaking or porting or testing an extension now, the odds of them needing to do it again in a couple of months are pretty low. Okay, good to hear.
I think
Bo has I actually have a question. I haven't done a lot with extensions with PHP in the past. This is Bo Simonson. So I've been hiding in the corner this whole time watching the awesomeness. Hi, everybody.
Hello, Bo.
So I haven't done a lot with extensions in the past. One of the big reasons I've not done that is because you have to install the extension globally. Is that not true? And if it is true, is that no longer true for PHP 7, or are you still going to be installing?
So here's the trick. It's not really globally, right? The problem is you have to enable your extension in your ini file. You do not have to put that extension where your other extensions are. Since PHP 5, I might be wrong. I think it was 5.4. If you use an absolute path to your extension, you can put it any dang well where you please, as long as your operating system doesn't block that executable from running, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of, can you touch your ini file? Let me touch your ini file. I know that sounds terrible.
Me making these kind of comments. That sounds like it's a song. Let me touch your ini file. I'm not writing that one.
So one of the advantages of Composer was, well, it's an advantage to some people and it's a disadvantage to others, is that the dependencies are installed on an application by application basis. Will it be possible to easily make it so that you can install extensions for an application on its own and not have to worry about modifying the global system ini file or specifying a special ini file per application?
Liz keeps sighing during that.
Unfortunately, this goes back to the way C and shared modules work, right? Mm-hmm. So It depends on how you have your application set up. Isn't that the answer for everything in computing, right? It depends. So really, it depends on if you are a shared host and have 50 applications running off the same PHP, or if you have, a nice PHP FPM set up with different pools. Then you can adjust which ini files you're using for the different pools, and then you'll be able to adjust what extensions you have for those different pools.
I do one PHP per file.
What is wrong with you? All right, so this is a matter of setup, right? And I think a lot of this has to go back to, we also don't have anywhere written down what are good practices for deploying PHP. So it would be really nice if somebody would go into the docs and write some of that down. Huh.
So one of my projects is Sculpin.
Yes.
And one of the big selling points that I have for it is that you can modify its dependencies at runtime. So in one directory, you can have one website that uses a certain set of composer dependencies, and then have the same dependencies in another package, but at different versions, or in a different website for different versions. Like, it would be nice to consider using, say, like the Twig extension in Sculpin, but some people might need to have Twig at a certain version in one directory, and then when they run Sculpin in another directory, have a different version of the Twig extension loaded. That's an awesome face.
There wasn't a sigh this time, though.
There wasn't a sigh.
So this is how, something to think about is that the Twig extension does not always change version to version, even if the outside of Twig does. So that's something to think about. They may not need a different Twig extension.
Twig is, yeah, exactly. But
the other thing is if you are running things CLI, right, you have a lot more flexibility because the fact that the DL, you really probably shouldn't do this, but it does work. You can DL extensions, right? You can dynamically load them. So that's something to think about as well for CLI stuff. It works. And it works because you load up the process and it runs and it closes down at the end. So you don't have anything going across and nothing blows up. This may not be true for other SOPs like mod PHP.
How easy is that to do inside of a FAR versus manually calling PHP?
What do you mean?
So Sculpin run generally from a FAR. So
it's just
right,
PHP.
Right. So like doing dynamic loading inside the FAR versus doing it on the command line. The
only issue is going to be your absolute path to where the module is, right? You need some way to get that into the FAR. As long as you have that, it doesn't matter. You're just calling DL in PHP land code. As long as you have the path right, PHP says, I'm a happy camper. Yes, but it only works for CGI and CLI. It does not work for anything else.
Speaking of FAR, Ting. No. See, this is the transition again.
Pun.
You
I tried to make a fun, but it just failed. No, but like there was a little bit of a tangent, but I do kind of want to go back to and oh, by the way, we are talking about this in more detail in a future episode about contributing to PHP 7 specifically, the Go PHP 7 project, PHP-ext. So we're gonna keep this conversation going. So keep this warm in your heads.
You're looking at me and I'm not even sure what you're going to say.
But I wanted to come back to the superclosure thing where we talked about eval, but then transition it into something that
What is your obsession with superclosure?
No. It's actually a transition to something that Elizabeth has said, and I've heard you say it before. And you were showing an example of a PHP test, a function, like one of the functional tests or integration tests in PHP, and you were using the reflection class to do something very specific within a testing environment. And you said something I've heard you say a million times, that you should only be using reflection class in this specific environment, but not in production. What is the why would you say it's not for? Why is reflection not for production? Is it for the same reasons as eval is not for production?
Security, speed, and memory consumption. Reflection is fat. Reflection is slow, and reflection can be a security issue.
So I'm actually going to ask you to clarify that, because
reflection's the only way.
One of the Drupal developers at one point ran some benchmarks on reflection and a dozen other things that are not typical, and found the performance was really not bad at all compared to all the other stuff he was looking at. It wasn't necessarily as fast as just a function call, but it wasn't exactly slow. So you shouldn't be doing it everywhere in the system, but using it intelligently. it's no worse than call user func array, probably better.
You shouldn't be doing that either. I mean, yes. I mean, if you were doing things that you would do.
Once I get to 5.6 and I can use variatics, sure. But until then, I need to use call user func array.
I mean, that's what it comes down to is we've tried to give you better tools for it, right? We know you're using reflection because there was no other way. We've given you other ways. Please do something else now. The biggest problem I have with reflection is a lot of the places I've seen it use it for like, I have a dependency injection container, and every time I make an object, I do a reflection call to get all my arguments and decide what goes in. Yeah, that's so freaking slow. And then a lot of the other place I see it a lot is in deciding routes and things like that, where you're hitting it every single time you hit a page. That's a very bad place to use it. Yes, if you're using it in very small, specific ways, I'm not going to like freak out, especially if you're on earlier versions of PHP. If you're before PHP 4, I don't care. But after that, if you really can't work around it, that's no big deal. But on the other hand,
sometimes you just gotta serialize a closure.
Yeah.
P.S. Don't serialize closures.
Serialize all the closures?
Okay, so the reason I say security is because people do stupid things in PHP.
I've never seen anybody do something stupid in PHP ever.
Would someone do that? Just go on the internet and do something stupid with PHP?
I've seen lots of cases where it's used for dependency injection and routing, where if somebody put a bad get variable or a bad, route in the URL because it's bad code. That's never happened. No, never. That never happens in PHP. Then you could be, getting dump outs of their system because they don't have checks in place to make sure you're only actually looking in reflection for things that exist. So it's just that kind of thing. Or, you can put something totally different in and look, now here we have the output of how your user authentication system works because bad PHP.
Right.
So bad.
So to play devil's advocate on this point, working with the advertising agencies a lot, they really try to embrace a descriptive they try to describe the behavior of the people they're trying to market to, right? And so they might do some weird quirky things, like when we're talking about user interface design and things, and they're like, why would anybody do it that way? And then they change the user interface to do it in that weird way that kind of seems weird. So my kind of rebuttal is so yeah, some of these frameworks are doing it for magical dependency injection and things like that. It's kind of really intuitive. It's kind of nice. It's kind of it's like using a tool that wasn't designed for that, but is using it to do something that's very handy for developers. Is it on the framework side to not use that, or is it on the internal side to make it more secure, less memory hog?
We would rather make something else for you that works better.
Gotcha.
So when are we going to get proper annotations?
We're going to get proper annotation sometime in PHP 7. One of the biggest arguments against them was the performance hit, but now we have the AST, which can take a lot of that out of the equation. So basically, we're like, we have to get the internal setup right so we can do some more complex things with the language.
Because it sounds like most of the things you're talking about are annotations that people are adding. Are there is that the problem that you have with reflection being slow, or are there other parts of reflection that are slow?
Yeah.
For pretty much any part of it?
It's just the way it works. If you want to have a really exciting time, you should go look at the C code sometime for that. I mean, it's not like bad C code. It's just the things you have to do to get that information out of PHP because of the way it's designed. Make baby Jesus cry.
I feel like he would have cried a lot looking at PHP stuff.
Which version did we add baby Jesus cry?
I don't know.
That's actually a Peckle extension.
It's PHP 7.7.7.
Someone actually needs to port that extension forward to PHP 7, the baby Jesus cry extension.
Next hackathon, that's what we're going to do.
So what does the code for get closure scope class look like? Because I'm sure that one was probably pretty scary. The reflection method get closure scope class is the weirdest method ever.
That's because of the way bind works.
Yeah, I know. I serialized the bindings too.
Yeah, the binding stuff in closures is incredibly cool. And when you look at the way it's done, you're like, oh, they're so abusing the way that PHP is implemented. But
it's also very easy to cause memory leaks with those as well.
Yes, because they're abusing the way PHP is implemented.
So is serializing a closure kind of looking at a cow and being like, ooh, beef steak. I'm going to cook and eat that beef steak. And then you
it's
start
like
to serialize
making
it.
a steak and then turning it back into a cow.
Yitz, would that be kosher? That's yes. So super closures.
Depends on how you get the blood back into the cow.
So according to that, super closures are perfectly fine. They're kosher.
I'll take that.
Well, guys, this has been super fun. We should probably be wrapping it up because I think we've been going for a while. Does anybody have any final thoughts? Like, we're only halfway through the Midwest PHP. Do you guys have any expectations for tomorrow? Or
I'm gonna piss people off.
yay!
I'm going to hope my Silex talk code actually works. It did the last time, but I don't want to curse it. And I hope people actually show up to it since I'm opposite Code Rabbi.
I hope that I can make it through my licensing talk without arguing with anybody.
So I'll come to make sure you can't.
Okay. You're still wrong about GPL.
As long as you hate the GPL, you're fine.
That's fine. Them's fighting words.
No, I won't be there. I'll be giving a talk.
You can still come to my talk.
I won't be giving my talk because I'll be at Chris's talk.
So I have a box of 100 t-shirts in my room, and I don't want to take any of them home. So I have girl t-shirts.
I would just like to point out it would be ironic if you did not have any girl t-shirts.
I know, right?
I'll take a t-shirt, but I would like one for males. So I don't have any use for
I'm sorry, I don't have any male size t-shirts. I'm just kidding. I have a lot of those.
I would like to
Can't
point
you
out
just
that
take a women's size and
it should be women's t-shirts, not girls' t-shirts.
Well, if you have a really small one, I have a really small daughter too. So
Okay, yeah, then fair enough.
Peace. See you, buddy. Are the women's t-shirts softer? Because if they're softer, I might consider it.
I'm just glad that I'm
pretty
done
much
giving my
the same.
talk. That's what I'm thankful for today.
Introduce yourself since you're talking now at the end of the podcast.
Only if I say nice things.
Patrick, you got
He's
closing
taller than he
statements?
looks.
Hello,
In real life.
I'm Patrick. You cannot spell or pronounce my name, so don't worry about it.
Shwisa?
Patrick is a really easy name to spell.
Yeah, Patrick.
your last name, we just say Patrick S. and we're all good.
Yes, I'm thankful that I'm the only Patrick S in the PHP community.
Shwisa?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm amazing.
ShamWow, right?
ShamWow.
Yes.
That's what we call them. A
I will never again work for a company where I'm not the only Patrick S.
We had 2 Patrick S's. We had to do something, and no one else was buying P Sweezy. So. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, there were a total of 3 Patricks, but only two were
Only
Patrick
2
S.
Patrick S's. Well, wow, there's a microphone right in my face.
You want another one?
Only 2 Patrick S's. There's too many microphones.
Okay. I'm done. I got nothing.
I'm looking forward to actually attending the conference tomorrow. Today I was pretty out of it, so I didn't go to anything up until about 5 minutes before my talk started. So
I went to Beth's talk, which was amazing and awesome.
Yes.
Yes. I went to Beth's talk, which was amazing and awesome.
Beth, we want to see that as
Yes.
What was your
You
talk,
also
Beth?
didn't say that into the mic.
Beth, what was the talk?
We want to see your talk as a keynote.
Oh, well, you'll have to talk to a conference organizer about that.
I think
I
know
wonder if there's
a
any
few.
listening in their car right now.
Someone should probably
I don't know
tell the
any of
Madison
those.
PHP conference that should be a keynote.
Yeah.
Some of these conference
I have a
organizers
feeling-
come to my house for Thanksgiving dinner, so I have.
Okay.
Some,
There you go.
So Beth,
I
if
have
it,
a feeling that if the Madison PHP conference did that as a keynote, there would be some eyebrows raised about, favoritism or something.
I bet we know some people named like Eli too.
oh,
Right.
not calling anybody out specifically.
Yeah.
The call for papers for Pacific Northwest PHP is open.
Oh, is it really? Do you know the URL for that?
But didn't you announce your keynote speaker?
Yes, Beth, I do know the URL for that. It is pnwphp.com.
You forgot the line where you're supposed to say, "Thank you for asking."
Thank you for asking, Beth.
Is that good? Yeah, that was better. That's better.
Beth-
Almost as good as when we rehearsed it.
Beth, if a conference organizer is listening to this right now, what talk are they going to make keynote? What was it?
What was it?
Yeah, what was your talk about?
It was
Yeah.
internals with Liz Smith.
No, it wasn't. No.
Is Gary a required part of your talk?
Gary is a required part of my talk, I think.
Can you replace
I
him
think
with any other Welsh man? Welsh man.
Maybe.
Okay.
We take some auditions.
So
but-
anybody from Wales plus Beth plus Aaron.
he's the token Welshman. Yes.
I thought he said he was the elephant.
Yeah, that's true. He's also the token elephant.
But would he be an elephant? Yes.
No.
No.
Are there any elephants in Wales?
There's probably one. I guess it depends if Gary's there.
That's it. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
The talk is called "The Only Girl in the Room," and it's a talk about diversity.
Sweet. Cool. I unfortunately didn't make it, but if it's
noticed.
I will at the next keynote. Next keynote, I will definitely be there.
Every person who did not attend was cataloged.
We
I was presenting opposite you. I have an excuse.
People who don't care about diversity. So.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
no
it.
problem. Pretty much, Liz and Gemma both sort of live tweeted it, so you can just sort of read that and just get the gist of it.
Nice.
Unicorn.
I both participated in and broke the unicorn roll during my talk. So,
So I'll, for closing it out, I'll go back to where we started earlier. I think now that Nate's left, even though he started it, why are we doing what we do? Who are we doing it for? What is the actual benefit of it? Is it just a paycheck? We don't care about the rest. Is there a social benefit that we're getting out of it? Is it just to play with cool stuff and feed our egos? If that's all it is, at least be honest about it. And if you want to do something more with it, and actually have a positive social benefit in some way, what is that? How can you maximize that and not go broke? Which is kind of a hard problem. If someone solves that, please let me know.
True that.
But I think if we can solve compilers, we can solve that. So let's put our open source minds together on that. How do we make the world a better place and not go broke in the process? Mic drop.
Nice.
Don't drop the mics. That makes audio engineers really.
Oh my
angry
gosh,
when that
Anthony
happens.
Ferrara did like 4 mic drops with my Sennheiser. Anthony, I know you're probably listening to this. Thanks for breaking my microphone. I'm just kidding. It's fine. It's fine. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining us for the roundtable, and I hope to see you guys. We'll do more roundtables. You guys will all be a part of future roundtables for sure, because I'm like, this conversation has to keep going, And thanks for watching. And if you're listening in your car, thanks for listening.
Thanks, Sammy.
And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Keep hacking.
Bye.